Hello, Federal viewers. Welcome to this live discussion. A massive row erupts over the film The Bengal Files, especially over the trailer of the film. To discuss more on this, we are joined by Amborish Roychoudhury, the author and also film critic. Welcome on the show, sir.
Hi. Hello. Thanks
Hi,
for having
sir.
me.
Sir, yeah, sir. There are a lot of things going around the film, The Bengal Files. Actually, so the trailer launch itself faced, disruptions and hurdles and so many things. So, what does this tell you about the challenges of filmmaker, who face when dealing with this such sensitive subjects as a film?
I think every film, however um, um, truthful or problematic or otherwise, has a reason to exist. Just like has the right to exist. Just like every human being, however good or bad or despicable, has the right to exist. So I think whether it's the Bengal Files or Santosh or the Bakar Banerjee's Tees, whichever film, whichever their standpoint and worldview, have the right to be seen, have the right to show their film, and people have the right to watch them and decide what they want to go for and what they want to watch. So I think it should be left to the people. Uh, but in India, there are just too many elements that come into the picture. People are, passions run high, and there are a lot of barriers between the audience and the film itself. There are a lot of barriers for the filmmaker to for their film to be shown, especially when the subject matter is considered to be potentially controversial or problematic.
Okay, absolutely, sir. So, sir, also, do you think the films based on such sensitive episodes in history, acts as a reminder to this for the forgotten truths, or do they simply re-trigger the old conflicts? So, how do you see this?
In India, I think it's more of the latter. There is a tendency for the people. I mean, like I said, people are extremely passionate, and when it comes to subjects like these, um, you know, people become aggressive, emotional, whatever. So it it probably appeals to their baser nature in many ways. So um, so when there are certain films which are seen to be triggering, which depict certain episodes from the past, which can potentially have impact on people, usually tend to rub people the wrong way, and people become extremely emotional and angry or aggressive or whatever. I think that detachment should be there in us as a culture. The ability to look at a work of art as a work of art, or and if it has to be seen as a product of the commercial film industry or whatever, that detachment should be there. But unfortunately, it doesn't exist in a country like ours. There are various reasons for that, but I think it's largely the latter. Yes, it might be triggering, but it also sometimes moves people to take actions like these.
Yeah. Sir, also, when talking about the real characters, as a filmmaker, if you are portraying a real character on screen, so how careful the filmmaker should be in handling this, handling the thin line between this fact and the fiction.
See, it's a very, like you said, it's a very thin line, and films are made. If you look at the world of cinema, films are made various different ways. There have been films on real life characters which have been fictional. There have been depictions of world leaders and spiritual leaders and people which have not told what happened in reality. I mean, look at Tarantino's films, for example. I mean, he has shown Hitler to be assassinated. I mean, that's just one example. There are so many scores of examples where we have depicted historical figures inaccurately, often also for aesthetic or artistic reasons, sometimes more often for to furthering one's agenda, to trying to tell a certain kind of story. So that has happened. But having said that, I think a maker should be mindful of the kind of impact that their work might have on people. So in India, especially, very little emphasis is given on research. I find very few works of film. One can go back decades.
Yeah,
The extent of research has always been extremely poor when it comes to India, especially while depicting historical characters, historical events. We are not. I mean, there's a certain passion, there's a certain agenda, like I said, of depicting a certain side, of telling a certain kind of a story, because it works, because the maximum number of people will um, either be emotionally moved by it and hence see the film and tell everybody else to see the film as well. So I think these agendas come into play while telling stories instead of an examination of history, because history is very rarely that black and white, right? You rarely find victims and perpetrators. You know, you might look for them, and that is the kind of films we mostly made. We are often looking for a villain, we are often looking for a good guy, but unfortunately history is not that starkly black or white, right? You often find a whole lot of grays, and that is not something I think we both both as a filmmaking culture and as a film viewing culture, I don't think that is something that we are still ready for.
yeah, sure. But how do you maintain balance then? This is my follow-up question to what you were talking about. So, how,
Hmm.
as a filmmaker, how people should have a, I mean, the filmmaker should have a balance. Then, if a filmmaker is inclined towards particular side, and how do you maintain balance then? If the filmmaker is in any of the side, how do you take a middle stand there?
See, I don't have all the answers, and I think it's a very difficult question. It's as difficult as saying, how do you
Yeah,
strike a balance in life? Um, uh, Anything, any work of art, anything that you create is political in the sense that it exists and it talks about the world. And when it's political, your own perspectives, your own agendas, your own thought process, your upbringing, your worldview, what you believe is red, what you believe is blue, is going to come into the process of making of that, whether it's a book or a film or whatever, right? So
yeah,
striking that straight up balance in terms of being the absolute truth, I don't know how easy or difficult it is. Some people have been able to do it to a certain degree. So I think, see, what also happens, if you allow me a minute more on this, what
yeah,
also happens is that in a fiction film, there is a filmmaker also feels the need to amuse and entertain and engage you, right? In a way, a
yeah,
documentary filmmaker probably doesn't think. I mean, nowadays, even documentary filmmakers are looking at engaging you in ways that fiction films do. But especially in fiction films, you're trying to fictionalize the characters and bring out certain dramatic aspects. And in the process, you end up making certain statements which might go against the grain of that historical character. So I think that one way of addressing this could be to hold history. To basically adhere as closely to historical facts, to try and find those facts. There should be an attempt visible in the work that it is trying to get as close to the truth, instead of pointing blame or painting historical figures or incidents in stark colors of black or white, right? A filmmaker, an artist should, in their own way, try to get as close to the truth as possible, right?
okay,
It's a problem as old as the hills. I mean, every artist has struggled with it, but I think there should be at least an attempt visible in their work of trying to do that, trying to achieve the truth instead of trying to milk people's emotions to try to say something which they would know would work, because most of the people are supposed to cry or move or get angry or whatever when they watch this.
Yeah. Sir, so this talking about this real life character, where all these things started, this important topic started. So Vivek Agnihotri, he said that the characters is inspired by real life, and so as a critic, do you think that's enough of a difference in this historical storytelling, sir?
Well, firstly, I'm not so much of a critic, but I'm a film journalist, and I write about
Yeah.
cinema.
Yeah.
So, can you repeat that last bit of the question? That last bit.
So what do you think about it, sir? That's enough of a difference in this historic storytelling. He's saying it's inspired from real people only. I'm projecting the real thing. What it is there in the history, I'm projecting it as it is on screen. That's what he's
Hmm.
claiming.
Hmm.
So what do you think? It's enough of difference in this historic storytelling.
See, I mean, of course, a filmmaker would claim that. I mean, if they claim that this film is based on facts, they would claim that it's based on historical characters. It is upon the audience to have that judgment. See, uh, when you make purchases of any kind, when you buy something, right, whether it's a house or anything, there are high involvement purchases and low involvement purchases, but in every kind of purchase you apply certain kind of judgment. You apply your discretion to decide whether this product is for me or not. So I think for cinema, especially cinema that purports to be reality and claims to be based on history, one should look for certain markers. One should try and do their own research, at least insofar as a film like that, which talks about episodes of history which caused a lot of people to die and had a very left a very deep scar on the soul of the subcontinent. So in these
Yeah.
kind of uh, films, one should do their own research, try and find out what actually happened. I mean, nowadays there are dime a dozen resources to do that, and that conversation should keep on happening. That discretion should be there in terms of watching that. So there's a responsibility on the audience to have that discernment, to research, to try and find what could be the possibly the truth. Well, that is one side of it. The other side of it is that when they're watching the film, they should be all of us should try and understand what kind of a film it is. Is it a film that squarely places blame on a group of people, or it tries to paint a particular community or a particular group in a certain way? Is it simplifying things? Is it making demons and heroes of historical figures and making it simplistic? Because history is never simple. History is never
Yeah.
simple. And to an audience that has been exposed to everything from Breaking Bad to Game of Thrones to, you know, anything that Netflix has to throw at you, I think as an audience, we have matured enough to not be, you know, um, spoon fed history,
Yeah.
right? We have the discernment to understand what is right and what is wrong, and we better demonstrate that while watching films or while deciding what film to watch, right? It should not be a overtly simplistic depiction of history. I mean, that kind of discernment, I mean, that responsibility lies on the audience and commentators to decide and to talk about films like that.
Yeah. Sir, how, and also talking about the actors, how important it is for an actor to understand this historical and this cultural context of this all these stories when they are going to be part of this film journey.
See, there is no one rule to this, right? So we have had actors of all kinds historically, both in India and elsewhere. There are actors who have played characters who are completely politically incorrect and come from a um, different political spectrum than they reside in, than the actor believes in. They have acted and played roles which are completely different from the political ideology that they believe in, right? So that has happened. That has consistently happened. People have played terrorists. People have played political leaders. You know, people from minority communities have played right-wing political leaders. I mean, take Nawaz for example. I mean, he has played Balasaheb Thackeray in a film where it might or might not be completely different from the politics that he personally believes in, but he found the character compelling, and he
Yeah.
thought it was his responsibility and his privilege to be able to play a character which was challenging to him as an actor. Now, if a film is seen to be problematic, I'm not saying that the Thackeray film was problematic, but what I mean to say that a given film, if it is seen to be problematic, it depends on the actor to decide whether I want to be a part of this film. um, a lot of times, like Shashwata Chatterjee in this particular film, he has played a role, and he has
Mm.
gone on to say that when he was shooting for the film, it was called the Delhi Files, and his responsibility is to the extent of playing that role and nothing else. One can understand that there can be problems in that statement, but one can understand his point of view. Excuse me. So when he's saying that this role that was given to him was extremely compelling, was something that he thought was a great challenge for him, and he decided to play that role. And the film was slightly different when it was given to him. So, but as it happens in India, there's also this culture of exposing an actor to only their roles or only that bit that they'll have to play. So a lot of times an actor doesn't also have a lot of understanding of the kind of politics that a film is projecting, right? So it's a bit gray. A lot of actors have refused to act in films which don't align with their political beliefs or which they thought was dangerous for the society. And a lot of great actors have played roles in films which were potentially violent or whatever, right? So it really depends on the actor.
Okay. Sir, regarding this film, or when it comes to Vivek Agnihotry's previous films also, there are some critics, call it as a propaganda film, or while others see it as a truth telling. So how audience should, judge where a film really stands? What do you think about, especially when it comes to Mr. Vivek Agnihotry and his work?
See, like I have one part of this I have already kind of addressed by saying that it might seem a little difficult or whatever, but I think an audience has that responsibility to be able to discern what is history, what is not, or what is blatant propaganda, trying to give them a version that probably they also believe uh, in a certain way, and hence appealing to that part of them. So people should have that kind of curiosity and the kind of rigor to do that research and understand whether this film or the trailer that they are seeing uh, is trying to project reality or um, just shoving a kind of propaganda or an agenda. See, these things are a little nuanced as well. I mean, so a great um, playwright and actor by the name of Utpal Dotto, who is also a legendary actor who worked in Utpal Dutt, who worked in Rishikesh Mukherjee's films, and he did some compelling works of theater like Kollol and various other body of work. That person said, I mean, he was intensely political, and he said on the record that I'm a propagandist because there is a certain school of thought I want my people, my countrymen, to understand and realize and be a part of, because I think this is the ultimate solution. which in his case was left-leaning politics and communism and socialism, which he strongly believed in, and that is what he pushed through his work. So he thought it was propaganda, and he was proud of it, right? And then there is the other kind of propaganda. You look at Hitler, what the Nazi Party or the Nazi Socialist Party had done during the Second World War, and various people do it even now. Various quarters, it still happens. It has happened in India. It keeps on happening. So it is up to the audience, it is up to us to decide. See, the film has a right to exist, the film needs to be there, it has the right to exist, if only to raise questions and to for us to be slightly uncomfortable that this is the society that we live in today, that a film like this, that a story like this, that a story tells an aspect so ugly and so detestable also exists, right? We have to
Yeah.
ask ourselves that question, and we have to question it, and we have to try and understand what is close to the truth, and and go by that. So and also the filmmaker, I don't think the filmmaker has a lot of, see, responsibility is a tough word. I think an artist has to be mindful um, about a, something like a film which has such broad implications, cultural and political. An artist has to be mindful of the kind of story that they're trying to tell, right? But
Yeah.
in India, what happens in these kind of films is that you understand what is the majoritarian point of view, what majority of the, it's a simple math to be able to see that this is what a major chunk of the population is likely to be emotionally moved by. So let's peddle that. It's not let's try to get to the truth. Getting to
Okay.
the truth is far more complex than you know, a truthful film which has its allegiance to facts will probably not be as popular. It will have higher chances of being banned or not being seen by the people rather than being commercially successful. If a film is seen by a large number of people and people are emotionally moved and all of that, there are chances in a country like India, there are chances that it might not be entirely free of any agenda or any kind of propaganda.
Okay.
That's how it
Sir,
is, unfortunately. But
yeah.
that's how it is. Yeah.
Yeah, sir. Before I let you go, there is one final question I want to ask you. So, since you know more about Bengal cinema and about especially about cinema, so looking at Bengali cinema, as you know, it's often reflected, this progressiveness and pluralism and so many things. So in that context, where do you see a film like the Bengal Files fitting in, sir? So it's what are your take on this?
See, we all have seen trailers,
Yeah,
but we know the kind of what it's trying to tell, through the trailers.
yeah,
I have not seen the film, so it is not proper of me or anybody else to say that it is a certain kind of a film. But we know Vivek Agnihotri's cinema and what it represents, and what this trailer is trying to tell us, or trying to project. But the trailer is reason enough for you to make certain opinions about certain things. For example, the way a certain community has been depicted. I mean, the Bengali community, for example, there is fake accents and way projecting the history in absolutes by saying that there are two constitutions and things like that, where it doesn't show, at least to the extent of the trailer, it doesn't show an allegiance to truth or trying to find the truth, because Bengal, like every other state and like every other culture, is extremely diverse, rich, and politically stimulating. I mean, it's not one thing, right? And to depict that, you are depicting a phase of history when giants walk this earth. I mean, they might not be political, but there are so many people in Bengal. There are poets, writers, intellectual filmmakers, right, who have navigated that landscape that you're talking about, right? So it cannot be as black and white. It cannot be one thing, right? It's a diverse world that you're talking about. And what it doesn't show to me at this point in time, the way I'm, at least the trailer that I'm seeing, the, it doesn't show a lot of research that has gone into depiction of a certain culture in the right way, right? Let me put it that way. Or even historical characters, the way Anupam Kher seems to be. I mean, he's a extremely powerful actor, but the way the character of Gandhi, I would call it a character, the way it has been projected, at least in the trailer, and how he speaks and how Jinnah speaks and all of that. I mean, they seem like characters cut out of cardboard, right? So I am not even going beyond the elements of cinema here, right? Because I've not seen that film.
Yeah.
Had we seen that film, we would make comments on whether it's truthful, whether it's wrong, and those aspects are wrong or right. I'm just looking at the aspects that have been exposed, that has been shown us through the trailer, right? So I think Bengal is a part of India which is extremely complex, complicated, and difficult to understand. It has always been complex. Not only the contemporary political history, it has always been politically complex right
Mm.
from before independence. It is not just one episode. I mean, you can't color the history of a region and the history of a people from one incident, however impactful and however large and however tragic. You see, interestingly, the when you talk about partition, the question of Ritik Ghatak comes into mind. Ritik Ghatak, I mean, a filmmaker who has the tragedy of partition has been with him for his life, and he has made films. Each one of his films is about the pain of partition, right? So that is cinema, right? That is the kind of film that goes in, that soars those depths that you need to soar to be able to depict a human tragedy. You have to go to those depths. That, I think, goes close to what one would call a responsibility of an artist, right? You have to go to those depths. You can't take entertainment liberties and make and talk about a tragedy. I mean, the intention is not to make people cry. The intention is to try and make your best attempt at getting as close to the truth as possible from your perspective, maybe.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your time, and thanks for shedding light on the film, The Bengal Files. And we'll have maybe more discussions in the future, maybe after the release of the film. So, looking forward to it. Thank you so much, sir, for
Thank you.
for being
Thank
in the
you.
show.
Thanks for talking.
Thank you. That's all we have for this show, dear viewers. Thanks a lot for watching this video.